Today we are going to discuss the auxiliary board for our ControlHoist Standard and Optima operators. This video will explain the location and power capabilities of the auxiliary board and the four main functions it adds: courtesy light, close warning light, contact closure, and contact closure motion, or CCM. Programming options for each will be discussed, along with wiring examples for a courtesy light and contact closure traffic light. For complete instructions and safety information, please consult the installation instructions. If required, the auxiliary board will be installed at the factory, and extra LCD menu options will appear during programming of the main board. There is also a kit available for field installing the board. The auxiliary board is held by plastic pressure clips on the side of the control box. For better access to the terminal block, power outputs, and CCM jumpers, the board is easily removed by pressing in and pulling out the clips. The auxiliary board and its functions are unrelated to the main board. It does not work in conjunction with the aux contacts on the main board. The contacts on the terminal block of this board allow us to run voltage through them to activate lights, bells, and warning buzzers. The activation devices being used must draw 3 amps or less, otherwise damage may occur to the board. The output tabs on the auxiliary board provide both 24-volt AC and DC power that can be used to power devices. Voltage can also come from an outside circuit. Devices drawing more than 3 amps can be activated through a relay of the correct rating. Consult the appropriate electrical documentation and schematics for more information. We're now going to take a closer look at the wiring and control options for the 4 main functions added by the auxiliary board: courtesy light, close warning light, contact closure, and contact closure motion, or CCM. The first, courtesy light, also referred to as an auxiliary light, is designed to turn on a light for a specific amount of time whenever the open or close button is pressed. To control a courtesy light, it should be wired to the light contacts on the auxiliary board terminal block. Let's look at this simple illustration of how to wire the auxiliary board to activate a courtesy light to turn on every time you open or close the door. Note the voltage supplying power to the light with wiring to the light contacts of the terminal block. As you will see, the other contacts on the terminal block are used to control the different functions of the auxiliary board, but keep in mind that the wiring principle shown here is the same. With the auxiliary board installed, press and hold both the program and stop buttons for 5 seconds to enter the operator's programming mode. Light on time will appear as an additional option after midway stop in the programming menu. The timer can be set to keep the light on for 10 to 240 seconds. Adjust the desired time using the open or close buttons and press stop to confirm the selection. The next function, close warning light, allows a warning light or buzzer to activate for a specified amount of time before the door starts closing. Your warning device should be wired to the SER contacts on the terminal block. With the auxiliary board installed, press and hold both the program and stop buttons for 5 seconds to enter the operator's programming mode. Close warn light will appear as an additional option in the operator's programming mode. Using the open or close buttons, change close warn light from off to on and press stop to confirm the selection and advance to the next screen where you can specify the warning light time. The close warning light option only works in conjunction with the timer to close function, and the warning light time must be set to less than or equal to the amount of time selected for timer to close. Adjust the desired time using the open or close buttons and press stop to confirm the selection. The contact closure function uses the door's position to activate a light, bell, or alarm device to alert the end user to the following conditions: the door is fully open, not fully open, fully closed, and not fully closed. How the device is wired to the terminal block determines which conditions will activate it. Fully open is wired to the C1 and N01 contacts. Not fully open is wired to the C1 and NC1 contacts. Fully closed is wired to the C2 and N02 contacts, and not fully closed is wired to the C2 and NC2 contacts. To further illustrate the contact closure function, let's review an example of wiring the auxiliary board to activate a traffic light. The green light goes on when the door is in the fully open position, and a red light comes on when the door is not fully closed. The contacts on the auxiliary board are C1, common open limit, NC1, normally closed open limit, N01, normally open open limit, C2, common close limit, NC2, normally closed close limit, and N02, normally open close limit. We will run one leg of voltage for the green light through the C1, common open limit, and N01, normally open open limit contacts. This will activate the green light whenever the door is in the fully open position. For the red light, we will run one leg of voltage through the C2, common close limit, and NC2, normally closed close limit contacts. This causes the red light to activate anytime the door is not in the fully closed position. Once the device is wired to the auxiliary board, the contact closure function takes effect. Since this function uses the door's existing open and close limits, no additional programming is required on the logic board. The final function, contact closure motion, or CCM, will activate an alert device such as a strobe or bell when the door is in motion. This function can be set to activate the device three ways: when the door is in motion of opening, when the door is in motion of closing, and when the door is in motion of opening or closing. The jumpers on J3 and J4 of the auxiliary board enable the contact closure motion function and set the activation condition. For motion of opening, move the J3 jumper to on. For motion of closing, move the J4 jumper to on. For motion of both opening and closing, move the J3 and J4 jumpers to on. When wiring the device to the terminal block, use the CCM terminals. No additional programming on the logic board is needed. That concludes today's overview on the auxiliary board for ControlHoist Standard and Optima operators. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video.